Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 347.
Yeah.
I hope you're all keeping well and safe wherever you are. I hope you've had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Welcome to 347. Hope you listened to last week's show, 346. You've kept up with the old Big Blue Box, but it's great to have you here, as always. If you're a newcomer to the podcast, if you've just found us, then welcome aboard the TARDIS to Adam and I waffling stuff continuously about various shenanigans and whatnot. And if you're a long-time listener, if you're one of the grizzled ancients, then welcome back. It's great to have you back for another week. Before we get on with the show, as always, there's some stuff that you optionally have to do. I'm not going to order you around. You don't have to do this. But it would be great if you followed or subscribed to the podcast in your fave podcast app of choice. That way you won't miss an episode when it lands every single Friday. And you can listen to our episodes for free over on our website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. All the episodes are there, and our reviews and articles from our amazing group of writers over there. We are on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Links are on the website, and we have a free Discord server. Hop in there, chat Doctor Who with other Who fans. Again, the link is on the website. And it would be remiss of me not to mention...
Don't forget to remember.
Don't forget to remember. That's a thing now, isn't it? It's
yeah.
It's all of Adam's content over on YouTube. His channel is called The Geek's Handbag.
Geek's Handbag, yeah. Lots of Doctor Who videos on that. I'm working on a cracking video at the minute, mate. Not just saying that to blow my own trumpet. It's a B&M quest, but it's turned out to be quite a fun one. And yeah, that should be out soon. I wasn't going to bother. I wasn't sure if it was worth putting together, and then I watched the footage and I thought, actually, quite pleased with some of this, and it's really coming along nicely. So, yeah, that'll be out soon-ish.
Sounds good, dude.
Just slapping some music on it and all the, bells and whistles, make it good.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, go and check out Adam's content over on YouTube. As I said, it's The Geek's Handbag. Go and do it. And Adam's on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Go and stalk him for a bit. Chat Doctor Who or Blake 7, whatever else you want to talk about. Blake, it's all good. Now that's out of the way, let's crack on with the show. So there's no news to get through. There's just nothing really of note to talk about. There's a couple of little interviewy bits that have popped up with Chibbers where he's saying things like, it's a bit clickbaity, these articles, because they've used a tiny little segment of what he said in the interview, and that's the focus. But one of them was he fully expects Russell to ignore everything that he's done in Doctor Who up to now, and making him out to be a bit of a crybaby and a bit of my work wasn't good enough. So it wasn't like that at all. He was just, that was like a sentence in the middle of a wider paragraph that was just taken out of context. And there was another one where he said something like, I'm done with Doctor Who, never again, sort of thing. Again, it was taken out of context a little bit. So, and also quite surprising, we've had no new names thrown into the hat for the new Doctor as yet. The upcoming casting for the replacement, that's still a bit quiet. So I think we reached a bit of a peak a few weeks back, or a month or so ago, where we had some ridiculous names thrown in there. That was when we had the height of it, with Hugh Grant's name in there and Faddy with the pick that was taken down. So
spotted in
I think the BBC they've calmed it all down a little bit now. So we've kind of come off the peak. And now we're just going to rumble along nicely until we get an official thing. So, yeah, nothing going on with the news. But you and I did something tenuously, roughly Doctor Who related last weekend, didn't we? We went to the old BFI, dude. We did our Wurzel event, which was very good.
Wurzel Gummidge, yeah. I mean, yeah, John Pertwee, there is a tenuous link there. And Sean Pertwee was there, which was a surprise, wasn't it?
That's
surprised
amazing
to see Sean on stage. That was amazing. We both tried to meet him after as well with no luck, which was a shame.
He bolted, didn't he?
He bolted out of there quicker than
Yes.
quicker than something I can't say because it's a family podcast. But he was out there like a shot. But what a great day, wasn't it? And I think for anyone that's been long-time listeners to this podcast, we have talked about Wurzel because we both love the original series of John Pertwee, and we've said many a time how the DVDs, the quality, although it's such a good program, the picture quality really needs a bit of work. Some of them look so washed out and grainy. Well, they finally found the original negatives, and they've done an amazing job. And it looked fantastic on the big screen, didn't it? Especially that first episode that they played as 3 episodes. The first one just looked glorious, didn't it? The colours, and it was sharp, and the other 2 look good as well. I think maybe there were a couple of little noise hisses and stuff that we sort of picked up on. That, you know, there's only so much they can do, but God, what an improvement on what we've had before.
Yeah,
and it was such a great event, wasn't it? And a really nice Q&A afterwards, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very cool.
Sean Pertwee, and we had Lorraine Chase. She was very entertaining, wasn't she?
She was brilliant. Yeah,
she was
lovely.
Funny.
Chase. Yeah. It was a really good day, dude. Yes, it wasn't really Doctor Who related, but it was kind. You know, they did mention Doctor Who a couple of times when they were asking some questions in the Q&A around. You know, they did say that John Pertwee is most well known as Doctor Who and so on, and how was approaching this part of Wurzel different to the Doctor and stuff like that. And I think Sean Pertwee answered a couple of questions on that and stuff. But dude, some of it looks like it was shot yesterday. You know, with the listener, we're not sort of over-egging the pudding here. Like sometimes when you see restorations or remasters, it can be a little bit hit and miss. It can be a little bit, what was the point? And one example that I always throw in when I have conversations with people is the Red Dwarf Blu-ray box set that they released a couple of years ago. That looks really, really close to just the standard DVDs. Like the amount of money they spent to quote unquote remaster those was in my opinion, a complete waste. Because if you had them side by side, 2 TVs, one with the DVD, one with the Blu-ray, you could probably make out the difference. You think, okay, that one's slightly sharper, and that one's got, you know, slightly better color range, very slightly. But if you look at the Wurzel DVDs over the years, and especially, you know, not going to count VHS, but the difference is literally night and day. And they had like a little, they previewed a couple of the special features, which was really good. And they did this breakdown where they showed you the original footage. I think they had some Barbara Windsor, Saucy Nancy clips, didn't they, in this bit? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you saw the breakdown, you saw the original negatives that they had found and the stuff that we'd used to watch or have used to being viewed on screen or DVDs over the years. And then they sort of laid it up step by step. It was like, right, this is now with the clean up, this is with the color grading, this is with the overall contrast and sharpening, and then this is the audio mix, which is amazing in itself. Because we had like these really old tinny horrible mono tracks before
with a hiss, wasn't it?
Oh, it's awful. Yeah,
sound all over it. Yeah.
So yeah, we're not over-egging this. Honestly, any Wurzel fans that are listening to this podcast, you will absolutely love this Blu-ray box set. And I think they said it, they didn't put a date on it exactly, but they did say it was coming up in 2, maybe 3 months. You'll be able to order it. So defo pre-order on that, dude. And it was, I must admit, I got a little bit emotional a couple of times there because Wurzel holds a very special place in my heart because it's one of the first, it's one of the first programs that I watched with my dad when I was younger. It's like my first memory of just chilling with my dad and watching him absolutely crack up at John Pertwee, and then me laughing at John Pertwee, and then me laughing at my dad laughing. You know, it was like a real lovely sort of thing for my early childhood. So, and then when Sean Pertwee was on stage and he was saying he got a bit emotional about some of the things with his dad, it was just a really cool, lovely day. And those episodes, and the first one we watched, Very Good Wurzel, dude, that is some of the funniest classic TV.
Still so funny,
ever.
Isn't it?
It's amazing. Yeah. So Wurzel fans, we're not going to go on too much about this, but yeah, get your orders in on the Blu-ray box set if you're a fan of Wurzel, or even if you're not. If you've heard us talk about Wurzel over the years and you're thinking, oh yeah, I've never really watched it, this is the perfect time to jump in and experience some of just amazing, funny, sometimes dark and emotional bits in this children's show. Yeah, it's just a great show. Yeah, definitely get it. Yeah,
that second episode, the real dark moment. Summer Wurzel is a bit dark for a kid's show, but it balances that fine line. That's why I think it appeals to a lot of age groups, because we were saying when we were sat in there was all, real variety of different ages in the audience, wasn't there? Like that little girl who they did a little quiz, didn't they? And the little girl answered the question that I didn't even know the answer to, but she got it right, and she was really young, wasn't she? I was thinking it's really nice to see that it still appeals to, young and old. And I always recommend it because it has got that Doctor Who connection. And John Pertwee loved the role; he absolutely loved it. And I think a lot of people, if they were to just look at pictures of it, might dismiss it as like, oh, what is that? It looks, him because he's got the straw face. And, don't dismiss it. It's a great show with a lot of depth to it. It's not just a kid's show. It's a lot of depth to Wurzel, and it's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
So fun.
Yeah, it's very cool. So
and sad, but also a lot of fun. Yeah. So a big shout out to my Stuart Manning, who's sort of working alongside another guy, which I forget his name. Those two are really kind of driving forward and putting a lot of love and hard work into it. So it's very cool. And also a shout out to a guy that's listened to the podcast for a while. He come up and introduced himself, Garry. Shout out to Garry, who we chilled with afterward for a couple of hours and had some drinks and stuff. Very, very nice guy. And it's always nice meeting listeners of the podcast and chilling out and talking plenty of Doctor Who and stuff, and a bit of Wurzel in this case. So so nice one, Garry. Thanks for the pint as well. It was, very good old natter after, didn't we? It's good.
Yes. Right, you and I were very light on Doctor Who this week. I think we both said before we recorded we've just done bugger all in terms of recording. But before we get on to our review, just very quickly, we can't obviously forget that we've got brand new Doctor Who coming up this weekend. So this Sunday,
don't forget
that one. Yeah, we've got Legend of the Sea Devils dropping on Sunday, Easter Sunday. I think it's 7:10 here in the UK. So that's going to be good. So some new Doctor Who to watch, bud.
Yeah, it's a good time for me, I think, because I'll be at my parents' on Sunday, and I'm normally back around 7, so I reckon that should slip in quite nicely, hopefully. But I'd say I'm not too drunk by the time I get back, because otherwise I'll be sat there again. What's happening? Oh no, she's got the Sonic hat again. Oh, I'm terrible watching Doctor Who when I'm drunk. I'm so critical. So new Doctor Who, and it'd be great. We'll have a new episode to review next week, and it's going to be cool, isn't it, to have some new Who on the telly. On the telly box, yeah. On the telly box, yes. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, so that wasn't a reminder, obviously, dear Doctor Who Big Blue Box listener. We obviously know you've got that in your calendar ready to rock and roll. So, it's just nice to be able to look forward to something new, because I think there's going to be quite a gap after this one and the next one, right? Is it October, November? Yeah, I was just going to say, do you think we'll get a trailer for that? Because they finished filming it, right? I think we will. Yeah, must have done. Yeah, it's all done. They're all done, aren't they? So theoretically, we might get a trailer for it, which is exciting. Yeah, that could be cool. Yeah. Let's hoping that the best bit of Sunday is not the 30-second teaser. Oh, God. Yeah. Imagine that. Like the Dalek one, where everyone just forgot about the episode instantly, the last one, and was talking about the trailer for this one. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And that was actually a thing. That we're not making that up. There were so many people that said the best bit of that episode was the Sea Devils trailer at the end, which was only 15 seconds. So take from that what you will. But yeah, so looking forward to that on Sunday. We've done nothing else Doctor Who. So, Bud, let's crack straight on with our review this week, which is the Fourth Doctor story, Creature from Pit.
Very odd.
That's odd.
Who's it?
No, please.
Where are they taking him?
We call it the Pit.
Kill him.
Attack! He's trapped in the pit with the creature.
How big is it?
Huge.
How huge? Hello.
You must know something about it. It kills people.
No in-depth information required there. It just kills people. It kills people. There you go. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. The creature just kills people. Anyway, first broadcast. This was a 4-parter, right? Yeah, so this was first broadcast back on the 27th of October, 1979, and it finished up on the 17th of November of that same year. It was written by David Fisher, directed by Christopher Barry, and the synopsis is the Fourth Doctor and Romana 2 receive a distress signal and arrive on Cloris. It is a lush Cloris. It is a lush and verdant world with only small quantities of metals, all of which are controlled by its ruler, Lady Adrasta. Adrasta?
Andrastra, yeah, it's a funny name. Andrastra.
Yeah, keeps order with the aid of her huntsman and his wolf weeds. Mobile balls of vegetation. A band of thieves, led by Torvin, organise raids on her palace to steal whatever metal they can. But in the minds of Chloris is something huge, a creature thrown into the pit to be forgotten. And the Doctor is about to join him. Dun, dun, dun.
Da, 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 da.
Creature from pit. Dude, what are your feelings on this one?
Well, I must admit, when I saw this on the schedule, I was a bit like, oh dear. It's not a story I watch very often. And I just in the back of my mind, I just remember it not being very good and quite frankly, a bit boring. So I wasn't really looking forward to this. I've got to be honest. But, you know, we're going to do every story. And I thought at some point we're going to have to do it. So, and there is worse from memory. I remember thinking it's not the worst, but this isn't going to be a particularly fun watch. So yeah, I bunged it on the other night, and I really enjoyed the first episode, and I got a little glimmer of hope that it might turn out to be one of those stories that is actually a lot better than I remembered. I thought, oh, maybe this is a little hidden gem that I've forgotten about, because I thought the first episode was great, actually. Love all the banter between the Doctor and Romana in the TARDIS, and then they come out to this glorious forest set. I mean, it looks brilliant for a set. You know, some forest sets in Doctor Who, they would weep looking at this one, because it's really good, and it's got a good atmosphere to it, and there's a good little story unfolding, and you think, oh, you know, this planet, and the Doctor's examining what he thinks is an egg, and then there's these funny tumbleweeds, Capture K9, and this really sort of strong, powerful woman who's ruling the planet. I thought, actually, this is getting off to a good start. Maybe I am going to like this. And second episode, it was okay. It was okay. It's drifting along. I'm sort of getting into it. And then it really just fizzled out for me in episode 3, and actually 4, probably even more so, because we always expect a dip in episode 3. I think that's just a given with Classic Who. It just happens a lot. But I hoped that episode 4 would pick up, and actually really it didn't. It almost felt like to me they didn't know where to take the story. They sort of get rid of the main sort of baddie, if you like, Adrastra. She's sort of gone very early on in part 4. So I'm thinking, so what's the rest of the episode going to be then if we've got rid of her? Because she's been the main antagonist up until this point, but she's gone now. So what's going to fill up the rest of episode 4? And they sort of bring in this other sort of storyline about getting the creature back to its planet or whatever's going on. So I'm going to put this in the sort of slightly mediocre camp, really. It's not bad. It's actually, there's a lot of fun in the script. I will say that. It's actually a lot more humorous than I remembered. There's some actually really genuinely funny lines in it, mostly delivered by Tom. Tom's actually really putting the effort in, I have to say, and thank goodness, because if he was in one of his can't really be bothered moods, this would really suffer. In fact, the whole cast pretty much bring this up quite a bit, because it's a bit of a slog of a story, and there isn't a great deal of story there. So it's not bad, but it's not it's not a classic, and it's not one that I would sort of recommend to people or watch very often. But it's got some nice stuff to it, and it's not as bad as I remembered, but it's also not particularly great. It's very much a middle of the road one for me, this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get that, dude. Yeah, I think it's a middle of the roadish kind of one for me as well. I think it's it does have a very cool classic feel to it. Obviously, it has that nice, charming kind of sort of low budgetness to it that we expect with that stuff. Like the wolf weeds are very weird looking, and you know, sometimes when you see the creature when Tom's interacting with it throughout some of the episodes and stuff like that, yeah, it looks a little bit sort of paper mache. Some primary school kids have made it, and so I love the charm of it. I love the sort of quintessential classic Who-ness to it. I just feel like the story just sort of it doesn't necessarily drag. It's not like a draggy sort of one. I don't know. It just feels like the story is just a bit a bit simplistic for the sake of being simplistic, if that makes sense. Like we have these 2 threads essentially running through the story, and that's it. It's like the whole creature thing is a bit of a mystery in the first episode. It's not until we get into the midway through the story where the Doctor tries to communicate with it and it doesn't kill the Doctor. So we get to think, okay, there's something more to this creature. It's not just a brainless blob that's just, eating people. So that's kind of cool. And then the other storyline is this whole sort of commodity, or this monopoly over the metals of the planet that's being governed by Lady Adrasta. So you got those two things, and that's kind of handles why those thieves, the bandits, are knocking around, because they're just scavengers, basically. Just want to go and raid the palace every now and then, grab some metal, and off they go. So that's really it. So I would love to have seen another thread in there where there was some, sort of another person. Because the old woman that seems to be the second in command to Adrasta. Yeah. She kind of does that towards the end. She's like, okay, if you guys help me, she's talking to the bandits towards the end of like, if you guys help me, we'll be able to control the planet as Adrasta did, and everything will be all cool. But I'd love to have seen her do that a lot earlier, instead of just being bossed around the whole time and sending her guards to their death, all the time. I'd love to have seen her revolt a little bit earlier. So there was like another thing going on that you could be like, oh, what's going to happen with these guys? So it's kind of, it's enjoyable. It is definitely an enjoyable watch. It's just a little bit like, okay, we know exactly what's going to happen here. We know what's going to happen here. To me, one of the best characters was his name was Organon. He was very cool. Our old friend Jeffrey Belden.
Well, Catweasel.
Catweasel and the Crowman from Wurzel. Yeah, so
yeah,
good timing. So yeah, he was a really good character. He was like this kind of fraudulent stargazer, horoscope sort of person that was just knocking around, wasn't killed by the creatures, been living down in the pit for a while. And his interactions are very, very cool and funny and humorous and bring a little bit of life to the story. So if it wasn't for him, this would be like a bit of a drab watch, but...
I'd totally forgotten he was in it, actually. What's his name? Jeffrey Babylon?
His name, Jeffrey Belden, is the actor.
Belden, yeah, sorry.
Belden, yeah. He plays Organon.
Yeah.
And he's really funny. Yeah.
He's a great character. And as I said, completely forgotten he was in it. And obviously, having just come back from the Wurzel screening, which is I always remember it best as the Crowman. But a lot of people remember him as Catweasel. But to see him in it, I was like, oh, my word, it's the Crowman. What's he doing in it? Obviously, playing a totally different character. And he is really good in it. Yeah, he's still got that sort of slightly comedic, but still playing it quite straight, which Jeffrey Belden's so good at, and him and Tom are good together as well. Just got to quickly talk about the monster, mate, because obviously it is the thing. I think if you mention Creatures from the Pit to most people, they're gonna say, "Oh, that's the one with the green blob, which looks really rude." I mean, it really does. It's. I can't believe they. I mean, it just looks so rude, that creature. But my God, kudos to Tom Baker. When he's doing those scenes with that blob, and especially the bit where he tries to talk into its tentacle, which looks takes something really rude to make it look even ruder. I mean, I just can't believe what I'm seeing on screen at this point. Kudos to Tom for playing that scene straight. I mean, I really can't imagine any other actor than Tom being able to sell those scenes, because he actually makes you feel something for that creature, doesn't it? You almost feel sorry for it when you learn that it's been chucked down there and it's not a big evil thing that's eating people. And it looks ridiculous, that monster. Even by Doctor Who standards, it is bad. And it is the thing that a lot of people will remember from this story, because it is that bad. So kudos to Tom. His acting is brilliant in those scenes. He's really taking it seriously. And I just don't know how, because I could not have acted against that monster. It looks dreadful. It's got to be one of the worst Doctor Who monsters, isn't it? Even worse than like the Slither. It's terrible.
Do you know what? It's not too bad when it's just filling up the doorway. It's got the and it's got the translator disc thing on it. Doesn't it too bad then, because all you're seeing is just like the shiny chlorophyll sort of skin that's pulsing in and out, and it's not too bad. But like you said, it's the bit where Tom's Tom's interacting with it, and like the little appendages come out, and weirdness like that. It does look a bit
How could you keep a straight face? I mean, I think there were there was a lot of tension in the room regarding that monster. If you watch the little documentary and stuff, you know, the director Chris Barry was very unhappy with it. He's like, how on earth am I going to shoot this thing? And to be fair, I think he does the best he can. I mean, it's impossible to make that thing look good.
Yeah.
And I think Christopher Barry tries to sort of keep it in the shadows a bit, but it's very difficult job to make that monster look good. But I do like the idea that it's been thrown down the pit, the poor old thing, and it's, you know, it's not an evil creature. It's, you know, it's just angry. Yeah,
a bit of trivia on the old monster, how it looks. So the director Christopher Barry and the effects designer Matt Irvine, they were called into the BBC when they saw the appearance of the first one of the creature, Arado. And basically what they said was, look, this thing looks like a penis. And because what happened was, apparently when they first brought that thing on set and they did that stuff, and everybody just literally couldn't control themselves with laughter.
I'm not surprised.
And so the BBC basically said, look, you're not going to sleep tonight. You have to come up with something overnight so we can film tomorrow that doesn't make this thing look like Tom Baker's holding and interacting with a giant penis. So what they did was they changed the shape of it a little bit and added little pincers on the end. And apparently that's the best that they could do without having to redesign the entire thing. So as a designer, what a smack in the face. Like, I've come up with this cool looking alien monster thing, and everyone just laughs for like 3 hours straight at it, and they can't concentrate, and then have to change it. Bloody hell.
But the bit where the Doctor blows down its little, well, I don't know what it is, but I just can't believe like what I'm seeing in that. I'm like, what is going on? I don't know how they could take it seriously, but as I said, Tom does the best he can to make those scenes work, and he does manage to do that unbelievably.
Crikey.
You know?
Yeah, so the creature, mate, I don't think anybody could disagree with you that it's probably one of the more ridiculous looking efforts that we've had in Doctor Who, especially in the classic years.
And they call it the blob as well, which just makes it like, there's a big blob down there. They don't even like try and jazz it up or make it sound scary. It's just a blob, a green blob.
I mean, conceptually, it's kind of cool though that this blob thing, the creature, is actually quite intelligent and is from a race of like, he's like a high up in whatever political chain is from his own planet or its own planet, and there's some kind of trade treaty that's been worked out between, you know, a supply of metal and chlorophyll and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of cool. That's like I
like all that stuff.
But it just gets overshadowed a little bit by the sort of messing around and the ridiculousness of the thing. One thing I did like was the translation disc thing, where it used the person's sort of vocal cords and stuff to project its, you know, what it's thinking as a sort of language that they can understand. That was very cool.
Yeah. That's what I mean. There's some nice ideas in this story, isn't there? Some nice ideas in the script. It's just not quite enough to sort of bring it up to a good story, really. But there is some good stuff in there, and there's a lot of fun in it. There's a lot of humour in this script as well, which is genuinely funny. It's like, it's not, you know, it doesn't fall flat. I thought there's a lot of good one-liners, especially from Tom. He comes out with some belters in this. He seems really into it. I'm surprised, actually, because, I mean, Tom pretty much always delivers, even in a bad story. I think the only one that I can think of where I just really feel Tom isn't giving his all is probably Underworld. I think he just seems really not into that story from memory. I very rarely watch that one, surprise, surprise. But this story, I mean, it's not particularly great, and we know that Tom could be very critical of the scripts, calling them whippet, bleep, bleep. But he seems to be really going for it. He's really giving his all in this story, I thought. And maybe it's that injection of having the new companion. You know, he's got like the new Romana and stuff, and they seem to be getting on well. I don't know, but I thought Tom was really on top form in this story. It would be so much poorer without him if he was a bit flat, or I don't know, if he wasn't in it. I mean, scenes that he's not in are the ones that drag. I mean, he really, I wouldn't say carries this story, because the cast are pretty good on the whole. I think everyone's pretty good in it. but you know, any scene with Tom in it is really fun in this story, and it does make a big difference, I think.
I agree, dude. Yeah, and there are times where he looks like he's loving it. There's a few scenes where he's got a big old smile on his face that we love about some of Tom's performances.
Big wide-eyed look.
Yeah, and funny little quips as well. You see, it's quite a funny script in a lot of places that you wouldn't really expect. Yeah. I think the biggest appeal for me for Tom in this story is when he's completely just not afraid at all of the monster in the pit. Like that scene where they capture him and then they take him to watch one of those dudes who's got his information wrong. He's going to be thrown into the pit. They take him over there just to witness, like, you know, the horror of somebody being thrown into the pit. And then Tom throws himself in anyway as an attempt to kind of sort of hide in there and wait for him to go and then climb out. I think that was his plan, to hide on the inner wall of the pit wall. And then when they'd left, he'd sort of climbed out, and I think that was his plan. But he ends up falling down, obviously. And when he interacts with the monster, even when he sees it for the first time, he's got a big smile on his face. And I think they play on that a lot, I think, over the years, especially in Modern Who, where everybody else is really scared and want to run away, but the Doctor's got this inquisitive nature. It's like, oh, it's not scary, it's probably just misunderstood, and so that's one of the things I really like about Tom throughout this one. So yeah, he is on fire for sure. He's very quick. Like, I'm not sure if it's the editing or whether Tom's just sort of his quips and his replies are really quick on this one, but he's sharp as a tack in it, and he's and he's funny. So
that's a good way of putting it, mate. Yeah, he's sharp. He does feel he's very quick with the dialogue, and he does seem to be, sharp. That's a good description of him. It's a shame, actually, talking through this, making me realise there is a lot more. There is a lot of good stuff in this story, more than, this is the nice thing about revisiting stories like this on the podcast, that I really don't normally bother to go back to. I mean, I don't know when I last watched this, but it's a long time ago. It's just a shame, really, that it fizzles out, midway through, because the cliffhanger, as I said, how much I enjoyed episode 1, the cliffhanger to episode 1's brilliant, because you don't expect Tom to jump down that pit, do you? You think he's going to get shoved down it, or it's going to be pretty much standard. So I like that, there's some little surprises and little things thrown in that sort of bring the story up a bit. So great cliffhanger to episode 1, I thought, and a nice resolution of him clinging on and then jumping down. So yeah, it's got some good merits to it, this story. It's just, for me, it just fizzles out really halfway through, which is a shame. Yeah, and again, I'm in agreement with you, that dude. It does seem to fizzle a little bit. It feels like episode 4, not to be too much of a negative ninny, but it feels like episode 4 is just going through the motions to the ending that we know is coming. It's like... Yeah. And it's weird, because it'd be strange to have this as a 3-parter. That would be a bit weird. They didn't really do that too often, so... But it does feel like this story would have suited that. So you start off with episode 4, essentially with... episode 4 is the creature going off into space, isn't it? Because there's a star that's heading towards the planet. It's going to wipe everybody out. So they concoct this plan where the TARDIS can do this tractor beam thing and hold it in place while the creature weaves like it's the same material that I think it lays its eggs, something like that, and and stop it. And then the TARDIS dodges out the way, stuff. So that last sort of 10 minutes, I guess, 8 to 10 minutes, I think, is very, very cool. But everything before that in episode 4 is just, we're just like, come on, we want to get to this good drag
bit.
Into the conclusion.
So I would read you, dude. It does fizzle out a wee bit.
I'll tell you, he does get a good story in this, or at least he gets lots to do, is K9.
K9,
in this season, he's kind of pushed to the back a lot, isn't he? He's told to stay in the TARDIS a lot, and they can't think what to do with him. Like City of Death, the story before, they're like, no, you stay in there, K9. No, he's not in the story at all. But this one, he's in it loads, and he gets lots of shooting to do, and he gets covered in tumbleweeds, and he destroys things, and he's in it loads, isn't he? I think this is probably one of the most K9 sort of featured stories there is. He's in it lots, and you can tell that. I mean, you were saying about the editing earlier. Actually, the editing's pretty good in this, because they constantly switch between the light K9 prop and the actual real canine prop. So they got one, haven't they, that's made of fiberglass that's really light and doesn't move, that they can just use when they need to carry him. And the switches are really, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know.
No, it's good.
So the editing's spot on in this, I have to say. But yeah, it's a shame that the voice is different. So it's a different guy voicing K9 in this season, isn't it? John Leeson has left for whatever reason. And what's the chap's name who's voicing him in this? It's
David Brearley.
David Brearley, yeah. I nearly said David Bradley. David Brearley. Yeah, it's a shame because I find it, because John Leeson has been doing this for a couple of years now and he's so associated with that voice, it is instantly noticeable, isn't it, that the K9's voice is different. And somebody was saying it was a bit more C3PO style. And I kind of see what they mean, actually. It's got that, it's a bit more cocky, this version of K9. And I think I'm right in saying it's only David Brearley for this season. I think John Leeson comes back the following season. I'm pretty sure he does.
He does, yes.
So it's a bit jarring to begin with, isn't it? It's like, what's up with K9's voice?
And also it's weird because you can tell that the direction that they gave David Brearley was, we just need you to sound like John Leeson, which is not great really, because it ends up just being, if he'd have embodied that character a little bit more and put his own spin on it, we could have just all accepted that this was just a newer, a different K9, or just, the voice modulator within K9 is different from the, something like that they could have put in. So it's just weird that it's like, as an actor, you want to do your best performance for something, but you've been told that you need to base your performance on the previous actor's thing. So you're trying your best to sound like John Leeson, but at the same time try and put a little bit of a performance in there. So I imagine that's very difficult to do, because as you're reading through the script, your first sort of instinct is to read something in a certain way, because that's how you feel the character of K9 would have reacted to something. So maybe that's obviously we don't know this unless there are sort of people that are alive today that were around when this was happening. But when David Brearley was recording that stuff, I imagine there was a lot of sort of stop, that doesn't sound John Leeson-y enough. Can you just go back and do that line again? So yeah, I can't get on board with that, dude. I would have much preferred it from a, just do your own voice how you think K9 should be.
Because he's a robot, he can change his voice, can't he? It's not like, we could go with that. If he'd had maybe the Doctor could have tweaked his voice box in a scene and, he's changed slightly. We could have accepted that.
What would have been cool, sorry, just very quickly, what would have been cool is, because the Doctor's always constantly annoyed by K9, there would have been like in between episodes that we didn't see, but the Doctor mentions Lala's like, Romana's like, oh, why does K9 sound different? Oh, his voice annoyed me, so I've changed up his thingy to try and get a less annoying. They could have had a fun little 5-second little bit in the episode to explain that, but
a bit like your navigating system in your car, where you can change the voice to one you want. Yeah, you could have done that. But what do you reckon to K9 in this? Because as for a writer, right, it's got to be difficult to think of things to do with K9, really, apart from shooting things. But I don't know. I think they utilise him really well in this story for a change. I think it's quite good to see him getting carted out and get stuck into the action a bit more, because he is so limited as a prop, isn't he? The actual prop itself, and his remote controls constantly interfered with the cameras, so that he was a nightmare to have on set. Bless him. And I love K9, but from a technical point of view, I think the writers and possibly the actors hated him because he was just a nightmare. But it's good to see him getting some of the action and getting stuck in, I think, in this story.
He did. He had quite a bit of screen time as well, which is good. Yeah. So the voice aside, it was good to see him muck in and stuff. And he had a good relationship as well with Romana fairly on as well. Them two get on really well. And she almost relies on him. There's a couple of times where it's sort of like a rinse and repeat moment where she grabs him and she tells him to zap a couple of people and they fall down and she gets captured again. So that doesn't work out too well, but you can tell that she's quite reliant on him early on. Yeah.
Now, talking of changes, what is going on with Romana in the story? This is clearly, I think I'm right in saying this is the first story Lalla Ward recorded as Romana, because she is different. You can tell that this was written for Romana 1. Just the dialogue, and she's too, Lala Ward's Romana is a lot stronger and more, how can I put it? She's a bit weak in this story in terms of she's a bit whiny, which isn't what Lala Ward's Romana's like for a lot of her stories. She tends to be the one dishing it rather than sort of, being a bit whiny. But you can tell that she hasn't found the character. I'm pretty sure this is the first recorded story she recorded, although it was the third story to go out. And I think it shows. I think her character isn't quite the same as it will become, and her performance is different. I'm not saying it's a bad performance at all. I still think she's good in it. But, it's not quite the Romana 2 that we know, is it, at this point? Definitely, like the K9, it's all right. Just her line delivery and the dialogue she's given, it's not quite suited to Romana 2. They haven't found her character yet, have we? She's trying to be like Mary Tam, and it's not really working. Yeah. Well, Lala Ward is was it on the commentary for this or somewhere else? She said that she wasn't happy at all with this story or her performance in it. Yeah, she said because it was the first one she filmed for this, Romana, she said that she was still kind of working out how she wanted to do it, and she wanted more time to work on that. And she said, like you said, what didn't help was the script was written for Mary Tam's version. So you just have to, it's difficult. You can't just take something that was written for another person and just say the lines. You have to put something into it that makes it your own, which didn't help. And I think she also said, the dress and her hair was also based on Mary Tam and stuff like that. So I think she was just a bit not really feeling it. Which is understandable. You got to settle it. I can't, and don't get me wrong, she's still good in it. It's just that because we know how her Romana turns out to be, she's quite a strong Romana. I like Romana too. I like both Romanas, by the way. There's no favoritism here, but compared to what her Romana turns out to be like, this one does feel a little bit weak in places. But it's her first recorded story, so we can, got to give a bit of leeway there. But she's still good in it, though. She's still good in it. Yeah, she's still good. What do you think to Myra Francis then, or Myra Francis, who plays Lady Adrasta? Because she's very hammy at some points. She's very panto. She is a bit. I thought she was pretty good, though, to be honest. For me, she did tread that fine line between being a bit hammy villain, but I didn't find her annoying. Let's put it that way. I thought she was quite strong as the ruler of that planet. I think, if anything, she just starts to go a bit too over the top at the end, just before she's killed. I think that's the only time when I thought, oh, she's ramped up the ham to 11 now. And she does go a bit shouty and over the top towards the end. But I don't mind that. I thought she was pretty good in it, to be fair. She feels a bit threatening, she feels like she's in control, which is good enough.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Like, I wouldn't want to mess with her. Let's put it that way. I think she'd throw you down the pit pretty quick. I probably wouldn't mess with her.
Yeah. I think, for me, it's just more the fact that a lot of her lines where she delivered them as like a big statement all the time. If that makes sense. Like, every time she says something, it's like she's like the town crier addressing the entire room as opposed to sort of conversing with somebody. Sort of one-on-one. It's that kind of thing. I mean, she wasn't bad, but I just felt like she was hamming it up quite a lot. A decent performance, though, in terms of what the story needed. It needed like a little bit of a big sort of theatrical villain, if you like, to drive the story from a baddie point of view. So you can kind of see why she was probably directed to do it that way. Like, we need this big sort of this big kind of performance. We literally couldn't have the bandits as the baddies because they're just a bunch of like Del Boys, those dudes that were like, oh yeah, lovely bit of metal here. What's that bit worth? Oh,
those guys,
They were just completely, so you couldn't have them as like the, the driving force behind the baddie side of the story. That would just be a bit weak. So we needed the classic old 70s villain to do her thing. So what do you think to those bandits, those dudes? Because they were a little bit like sort of the Chuckle Brothers of the planet, it felt like.
Yeah, they weren't too bad, actually. They brought a bit of humour to the story. They're not as bad as I remember. I remember thinking that those were the scenes where I got really bored, but actually they were quite fun in places. And the lead guy, Tovin, is it?
Torvin, I think. Yeah, Torvin. Yeah.
Torvin and Dean. I actually felt quite sorry when he got stabbed at the end. I was like, oh, he didn't really deserve that. Old Karela. She's a bit of a nasty piece of work, isn't she? I mean, as soon as old Astra's out of the way, she pushes herself right to the front, doesn't she? And starts trying to take over. Yeah, when she stabbed Torvin, I felt a bit sorry for him, to be honest with you. I didn't think he deserved it. She's that actress, Karela, Eileen Way was the woman. Mm-hmm. I kept thinking, now, where do I know her from? Because she's got a very sort of recognisable face, and she's just got a certain look. Mm-hmm. And of course, I think I recognise her from the Cushing Dalek film. She's like the old hag that's hiding away in the in the shack in the forest. But I think she might have been in Doctor Who early on as well, but I'm not sure. But I recognised her straight away, and she has got a great villainous face as well, hasn't she? She's got a look about her that no offence to the actress, because she's great, but she does have a slightly evil look to her. And I think she plays it quite well.
Yeah, she does.
Was she in early Doctor Who? I'm sure she was.
She probably
she's definitely in the Cushing movies. That was where I recognised her from. It was bugging me for ages.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think she was. She. I didn't immediately recognise her as the Cushing movie thing, but yeah, I think normally like actors, from that sort of time period have been in Who at some point at least once before things like Z-Cars and oh, she was in Z-Cars, yeah.
Oh, of course,
yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else she was in Who, Bud, but yeah, she could have been.
I think she may have even been in the first story. She's definitely in one of the early Who's, and I can't remember which one it is. Very early on, she's in it. But yeah, she's pretty cool. And like you said, I think maybe a little bit wasted because she's a good actress. She's got that sort of slightly evil crone face. Sorry, but she has. And I felt like they could have built up the rivalry between her and Astra a little bit, because she seems like she can't wait to take over once she gets the chance. So they could have definitely added that into the story a little bit. It would have been quite fun, I think, because got two good actors there, both quite sort of villainous female characters. There could have been a bit of fun there, I think, a bit of rivalry between the two of sort of, so she could have been perhaps delighted when Astra finally gets it and she gets her chance to shine. Or they definitely could have done some more with those two, because I think that would have worked quite well. Yes,
yeah, that would have been cool, actually. Yeah. Any other people we need to talk about? Organon, the Crowman. We mentioned him briefly earlier, but kind of a weird character to throw in there, because like I said at the beginning, I felt it was needed because it needed some it needed a little bit of quirkiness here and there, a bit of light relief and stuff like that. But a very rare instance where he survives right until the end. Normally characters like that, they're either captured or they're killed off, and that provides a bit of an emotional anchor. It's like, right now the Doctor's definitely got to sort this all out. So yeah, it's weird. It's like he's sort of a happy-go-lucky. He's a bit of a fraud, right? He kind of thinks he's an astrologer, or a medium, but he doesn't really. He's just sort of. And at the end, it sort of all becomes clear. Like when the huntsman guy, David Telfer, is holding the treaty. Organon's already had a little sneaky look, so he knows what's on there, and then he pretends to, in his mind, a vision comes of what's written on the thing. He's like, "How did you know what's written there?" He's like, "It's written in the stars," that sort of thing. So you kind of get, the point. He's a bit of a lad with that stuff. But I just found him a very interesting character, and glad they didn't kill him off, because they could have easily done.
I would have been sad if he'd got killed off. And good casting, as I said earlier. I think Jeffrey Belden is perfect for those type of roles, and he's great, a good character. I definitely glad he didn't get killed off. Just brings a bit of fun to it, I think.
yeah, agree, dude. Okay, I don't think there was much else. Oh, just very quickly, we spoke about obviously the creature, but what about the little wolf weeds, those little balls of little cabbages that just rolled around and engulfed somebody? Yeah, that was reasonably funny as well.
They work quite well, really, don't they? I mean,
Well,
they're ridiculous, but again, they had some fun to it. I think. I would imagine as a kid in 1979, I would have loved them. I would have thought they were great, but yeah, a bit like the creature, they're a bit ridiculous in a way. They take out K9 way too easily. I tell you what, I love though that scene when Tom, right at the beginning, Tom's like examining what he thinks is the egg, and he keeps turning and looking because he thinks something's moving, and then he turns back and they move a little bit more, and he looks back, and that was just such a fun little moment. That because you're just waiting for them to pounce on him. So yeah, they kind of work weirdly, I think, in the story term.
They do, yeah. I found the introduction to them really funny though. When Tom's on the ground and he's doing that thing like, I'm gonna look. No, I'm not looking. Like,
yeah,
no, it's like musical chairs sort of thing. But musical statues. But
that's it.
Kind of funny. But yeah.
I also love Tom in the stocks at the start. They put him in like the headlock. I just thought again, it looks so uncomfortable. Tom really works well. In those scenes, he really sort of goes for it and brings the humour of being put in those stocks.
Yeah, that was a really humorous bit actually when he gets somebody to itch his nose. You know that?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I was trying to think what he does. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he gets you.
Yeah, but the thing that Dudley Simpson's music, he played like a little comedic clown sort of bit of music there to really get the point across that this is a funny little scene, kids. Don't worry, nothing bad's going to happen. And yeah, that was kind of weird. Like. He's like, itch my nose, very good boy. And it's like, bosh. And so that was quite funny. The old stock.
And I like the fact how he turns serious. This is the good thing about Tom, innit? When she says, shall I scratch your nose? It's like the itch has gone. And just suddenly his demeanour just changes to very serious. And he's like, right, what's going on? That's what I love about Tom is he, plays the fun, but when he needs to get down to the serious, he's straight there and he kind of sort it out. You mentioned Dudley Simpson there, so I think it's a good one for him. Some lovely little bits of music score in this story from old Dudley.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's kind of recognisable as well. I feel like there's a few stories where his music's a little bit familiar between them.
There is a few bits in this, I think. I've heard that before, but okay.
It's not bad though. It's pretty good.
No, I liked it. Yeah, I like the music in this one.
Yeah. Anything else on your notes, dude?
No, I don't think so. No, just looking through. No, I think we covered it.
Cool. I think it's me to go first. I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. I think it's a lot more enjoyable than just a sort of on the fence. Do I like it? Do I not? So it's not a 5, but yeah, it's just a little bit. It's not a 7 where it's. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of enjoyable and it is enjoyable to a degree, but. Yeah, just a bit expected, I think, and a little bit paint by numbers in some places. And the creature does look ridiculous. We can't get away from that. So, yeah, what about you, dude?
Yeah, I must admit, I'd written 6.5, but I'm going to give it a 7. I'm going to give it a 7. Nice. I'll tell you why. It's not one of the best, but 6.5 to me is sort of really starting to go into the lower realms. And this is better than I thought it would be, but it's just not great. I think it's got more to it than I thought. So that's why I'm going to go up a little bit. As we've talked through it, there is some nice moments in the script. It is produced well. Tom's good in it. In fact, the cast are good in it. So I'm not going to give my original score 6.5. I'm going to go slightly higher with a 7. Might be being a bit generous, but it isn't as bad as I thought. But it's just a little bit unsatisfying.
Right. So that's fair enough, dude.
Yeah.
That's fair dues. Okay. So a 6.5 from me and a 7 from him. What did our listeners think to this one then? So over on Twitter, we had the Courier of Who says, I always struggle with this one, but I find Romana charming, but the monster is a letdown of 5 out of 10. Writer Jordan says there's some seeds of a good story in here somewhere, but it gets lost amongst Tom Baker being Tom Baker and a rather dodgy looking monster and the iconic interaction. But Lala Ward is great as Romana, and Lady Adastra makes a good villain.
Yeah.
Chippy T says, I enjoyed Tom and Lala's bants, but Adastra was too shouty. The story concept was interesting, people using creatures for their own ends, but it never fully explored that. Even back in the 70s, they must have recognised how that creature looked. Was it all tongue-in-cheek? 6 out of 10. Will Sanger says the monster is ridiculous, which overshadows everything, and the interactions with the Doctor are simply laughable, which strips the story of any drama or credibility. The storyline has nothing of substance and drags endlessly. Luckily, Lala Ward proves to be strong. A 2 out of 10.
A 2?
Will. Yeah, not happy with that. A 2. The Lost on Gallifrey podcast, guys. I watched this recently. I'm expecting nothing, but loved it. I never let effects bother me with Classic Who, and although certain shots in this push that to the limit, there's so much to enjoy that outweighs it. Parts 1 and 3, cliffhangers are fab. Tom is excellent. A lot of fun. 7.5.
Oh, cool.
And lastly, on Twitter, Sam Dooley says it's a mediocre story with nothing too memorable about it, but credit where it's due. Tom is always fun to watch, even in his weakest stories, of which there are very few, this being one of them. I watched this one years ago, remember being bored by it, so 5 out of 10.
Okay.
A 5. And then we had a few over on Facebook. Martin Arnold is back. He says, this isn't a bad story at all, to be fair. It's just this season is a bit crap. Sorry, I put words in Martin's mouth there, or his keyboard. He didn't say that at all. What he said was, it's just this season gets a bad rap. But there are lots of good stories, not just not good production values. Fortunately, the cast sell it very well, even if the creature looks like a party bag someone threw up in. Gives it a 7 out of 10. Toby Coleman says, Series 17, one of the series I have watched the least. Well, unfortunate creature design aside, the story is okay for the most part. I can't decide whether I like Romana or not, as she goes from really strong when dealing with the bandits to whimpering over K9. I'm not particularly fond of K9's new voice either. It starts good but loses steam in episode 3 before episode 4 runs out of plot. Overall, 6 Wolfweeds out of 10. Enjoy the Legend of the Sea Devil and Happy Easter, Toby. Yeah. Charlie Turner says, apart from that scene, quote unquote, where the Doctor looks like he is okay, I'll keep it PG. This is a pretty interesting story from my least favourite classic season. And Charlie goes on to give it a 7 out of 10. Some of these are relatively long, so I'm not going to read them all out. Garry and Ad, well, it's a first time for watch for me. And I have to say, it's a bit bland. However, I do like the fact it's an episode where you see a lot of the Doctor. It's nice to see K9 and a lot of this blasting and stunning his way through. The ending reminded me of the 11th Doctor's episode Cold War.
Oh, yeah, and saw that.
74,384, 338. What a lucky number to have.
That's what I mean. There were some great lines like that.
Yeah. And he gives it a 5.5. Andrew Stewart says, I really enjoyed this one. I think it gets forgotten about. Apart from that scene, all you know is what I'm talking about. Tom and Lala are superb, but as much as I love K9, David Brill's voice, it's a bit annoying to begin with. The story is entertaining for a bit of Classic Who. A fun 8 out of 10. Cameron Artley says, oof, I didn't get the time to get this one this week. It's not one I remember that well. I don't think it's the worst of the season either. I think I did like the dynamic of this team, and it helped getting through that story. Solid performances, an okay story. 5.5. Blow pops out of 10. Happy Easter, Cameron. Dwayne Bunny says, this is my guilty pleasure. The script is rich with Douglas Adams' influence and all the cast scenes we have in a ball. I particularly enjoyed the team up of Jeffrey Baildon and Tom Baker. This is a story I never get tired of. It is my season 17 go-to.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cool, yeah. And lastly, Bob Clark says, The Creature from the Pit. I really like this one, from the OTT lady at Astra to her servant back from the Cave of Skulls, in brackets, and Wolfweeds with a hunky woodsman. Great comedy moments, an 8 out of 10.
Very mixed, actually, this week, isn't it?
It is very mixed, yeah. Yeah, it is very mixed. I think we've gone from a 2. Was that Will's review, the lowest of 10? I think we went up to an 8.5, which is not too bad. Okay, so that's The Creature from the Pit done and done. Next week, Bud, we don't need telling, but tell us anyway, what are we going to review next week?
Yeah, so it'd be nice to have some new Who to review next week. So, of course, it will be Legend of the Sea Devils. Going to be great to see the Sea Devils back, isn't it? It
is, yeah. Swashbuckling and up to pirate no goodness. Should be good.
Yes. Yeah. Let's hope it's good, yeah.
Let's hope. All right, indeed. And, dear listener, I think we're going to wrap there for episode 347.
All righty.
thank you for listening to the Big Blue Box podcast for another week. That was episode 347. And the old creature from the pit, fairly not bad scores from us, and some very mixed scores from our listeners. So thank you very much to those that sent in your mini reviews and your scores out of 10. That was very much appreciated as always. As Adam said, for next week, and you all know, it's the return of the Sea Devils in Legend of the Sea Devil. So we'll be watching that over the Easter weekend, and we'll be asking for your reviews and your scores as always. So look out on the socials for that post. In the meantime, make sure you follow this podcast in your preferred podcast app, or listen to all the episodes for free on the website bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can also check out our reviews and articles over there as well. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Links on the website, and there's also a link to hop over to our Discord server, which is completely free. Jump in there and chat Doctor Who with other Who fans. And as always, make sure you check out Adam's channel. Over on Facebook it is The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yeah, lots of Doctor Who vids over there. Go and have a look.
Go and check
also
it out.
On all the socials.
Yeah, he's on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Come and give a like and a follow over there, and we'll all chat Doctor Who throughout the week. It's all good. So until next week, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,